Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more slug testing here. And I've definitely got an interesting one today, that's for sure. And it's an entirely new setup that you guys have never seen before. I swung in a store the other day, not even really looking to pick a whole lot up, and I saw this deal and could not pass it up. I could not walk away from it. It was a stupidly low price for what this is. So enough teasing you guys after the community post and all that. This is a Remington 870 Magnum Special Purpose here. And as you can clearly see, we've got a cantilever setup, fully rifled 18.5-inch barrel here. From the story that I kind of gathered from it, this was a retired police gun, and from the looks of it, it was never even fired until I just threw this scope on it the other day and zeroed it in pretty close. Now as for this scope, it's a Nikon Inline XR, which is a muzzleloader scope. However, it's what I had on the shelf, so it's what I threw on for now. I don't think this is going to stay on there very long, but it'll do the job for now's purpose anyway. And by now you're probably already wondering, well, what was the price for this? This 870 Magnum with the fully rifled barrel and this sling and a soft case that came with it, $175. I could not walk past that deal. So with that being said, we are going to be doing a lot of testing with that gun. Different slugs, from sabot slugs to rifled slugs and everything in between. We're going to try it. But for what we're starting out with today, as far as the load goes, I picked up some of these, the Hornady SST 12 gauge slugs. These are a 12 gauge 2 3/4 inch 300 grain slug. The box does call for 2,000 feet per second, but we will see. I don't necessarily expect that out of an 18.5-inch barrel, but we do have the chronograph, so we'll see how close we get to that number. But as for the tests we're going to be doing today, I would ideally like to shoot several groups at 50 and 100, but I just don't have a whole lot of those slugs, so we're going to be pretty limited today. But I have 2 pallets set up with some paper on them. One is set up at 50, so we'll shoot a 3-shot group at 50, and the other is set up at 100 yards. We'll shoot a 3-shot group at 100 yards as well. Even though it only is one group at 50 and one group at 100, we should still at least be able to see how accurate this setup can potentially be. And like I said, I do also have the chronograph, so we will be able to see our actual muzzle velocity and get our energy number off of that as well. So enough talking, let's go over here and get set up. We'll start off with our 50-yard group, and then we'll adjust over to our 100-yard group. And let's see what we can get out of these things. I'm really looking forward to it. I think we're going to see some pretty decent results. But let's go over here and get set up and shoot them and see what they can actually do out of this new 870 special purpose Magnum like that. Alright, so let's take a look at our chronograph numbers real quick, and before we even look at it, if you guys were paying attention to the chronograph numbers while we were shooting our groups, we had some major variance in our chronograph numbers here. It shouldn't be reading anything kind of funky or weird, but for a high we had all the way up at 2287. For a low we had 1662, and for an average that gave us 1836. So at the farthest extremes, we had a 600 feet per second difference. So something is definitely a little bit off about this. I don't know if the chronograph was just reading funny for whatever reason. However, looking through my scope and what I see on the targets down there, I think we actually really did have some inconsistent chronograph numbers, because some of those groups were looking really good until we had a major difference in velocity. But let's go take a look at our targets and see how they actually performed in our groups anyway. Alright y'all, so now we're at our 50-yard paper, and this is pretty interesting. After seeing those chronograph numbers, I think I know why we got what we got here. Our first 2 shots are in the same hole right there, so definitely looking really good there. But our 3rd shot, the higher one here, was over 2,000 feet per second across the chronograph, whereas everybody else was 1700s or so, give or take. So we had at least 300 feet per second different from the first two shots that are in the same hole to that one up above, which would absolutely make sense as to why it would fly a little higher, a little faster, a little less drop, and so on. But overall, I did measure that group out to be right at a 3-inch group. For 50 yards, it's not ideal, but the chronograph numbers probably play into why we had that one fly a little bit higher than the other two. Because, I mean, we were just punching one big hole in the target before that. So let's go look at our 100 yards and see how that one did. Alright, so now we're down here at our 100-yard paper, and this is what we got. I measured this group out to be from the top hole there to the bottom right hole over there to be right at a 4.5-inch group, which is not amazing. It's not absolutely terrible either necessarily, but I was definitely hoping for better. However, looking at those chronograph numbers as I was shooting, once again, they were a little bit on the inconsistent side. I felt good about all my trigger squeezes, so I think this more so comes down to just some inconsistency in the actual velocities. I think that shotgun's capable of much better than this, so I think we need to do some more testing with it. Alright y'all, well, what did you think about how they performed? Both the 870 Special Purpose with that rifled barrel and the Hornady SSTs. It was definitely not exactly what I expected. We started off looking really good. We had two good chronograph numbers, although they were lower than what the box called for, which I expected, seeing as only we have an 18.5-inch barrel. But then we had that 2200 feet per second chronograph number, which made our third shot hit much higher at 50 yards. And it just kind of jumped all over the place from there. And I did let the barrel cool between groups while I reset up different camera angles and things like that. So heat should definitely have not been an issue in this case. I don't know. For those of you who have tested a bunch of sabot slugs and have seen similar things like this, what has been your experience and what do you think actually made the numbers jump all around like that and our groups jump around? Leave a comment and let me know, because I really want to know. But on that note, I've still got another test I need to run out here today, so I'm going to hop back to it. Stay tuned, because we've got plenty more really interesting stuff on the way. And with that being said, I'll see y'all in the next one.